She mentioned that her love language was acts of service. You have to contribute more for me. I consented. So when I uncovered evidence she was unfaithful, my act of service was to carefully organize all her possessions into cartons and present her with a 30-day notice to leave the residence I owned. I never imagined I'd become one of those individuals, sharing my personal turmoil online for unknown people to read. I'm a reserved guy. I run a modest lawn care company. I possess my own house, and I've always trusted in dealing with my issues silently and straightforwardly. But what occurred with my former girlfriend Amelia was a lesson in deceit and double standards. And the manner it concluded was, I've heard, a tale worth sharing. So here it is. It all began with a book, one of those popular relationship guides about love languages. Amelia read it roughly a year back, and it became like a fresh faith for her. Abruptly, everything revolved around her main love language, acts of service. Initially, it seemed logical. The concept is that certain people sense affection when their companion performs tasks for them. I got that. I'm a guy who labors with his hands to earn a living. I recognize the importance of taking action. But in Amelia's grasp, this idea twisted from a partnership aid into a tool of self-importance. It began modestly. You know, my love language is acts of service, she'd mention. So I'd feel truly cherished if you managed all the dishes this evening. Then it expanded. I had such a tiring day. Handling all the washing for me would be a wonderful act of service. Quickly, it turned into the excuse for every chore she avoided. Preparing meals, tidying up, buying groceries, getting her vehicle serviced for oil, arranging our trips, all of it was relabeled as a chance for me to demonstrate my affection for her via acts of service. Our bond gradually shifted. I was no longer her equal. I was her constant, unpaid personal assistant. My own requirements, my own pressures from managing a company were always less important. If I endured a lengthy, exhausting day, it was irrelevant. Her demand for service came first. If I ever attempted to resist, to propose that perhaps my love language was words of encouragement, and I'd value a basic thank you, she would gaze at me with hurt eyes and state, I'm sorry you don't feel at ease showing your affection for me in the manner I require to accept it. It was an ideal controlling snare. I tolerated it for much too long. I cared for her and I'm a problem solver by instinct. I figured I was simply being a solid boyfriend, carrying a greater burden while she navigated a tough period. I owned the house we shared, a compact 2-bedroom spot I'd purchased and renovated with my own efforts well before meeting her. I was pleased to offer my home, my existence with her. I just didn't grasp that she viewed my readiness to assist as a flaw to manipulate, and my home not as a mutual haven, but as a luxury accommodation where she was the sole patron. She was correct about one aspect, though. My love language is acts of service, but the action I was set to execute wasn't one she would appreciate. Part 2, the revelation. The start of the finish occurred on a Tuesday. It was wash day. Amelia returned from her desk job, exhaled theatrically, and announced she was too completely drained to even consider her brimming laundry hamper. It was naturally framed as yet another occasion for me to prove my devotion. So like the reliable, supportive companion I was, I collected her items and began a cycle. I was checking through the pockets of her pants prior to loading them in the machine. It's a routine. I've rescued her phone and headphones more occasions than I recall. In the pocket of a pair she had on the prior Friday, an evening she claimed she was heading out for beverages with the ladies after work, my fingers touched a bit of plastic. It was a motel access card. I remained there in my wash area, the scent of soap in the air, clutching this small white card. It wasn't from a hotel brand I knew. It was from a spot called the Indigo Room, an upscale intimate inn in the city center famous for its amorous vibe and outrageously priced drinks. It was not the sort of venue you visit for a relaxed beverage with female friends. My initial idea was that there must be a reason. Perhaps they stopped there for a lavish drink and she just mistakenly took a card. But my instinct, the same instinct that alerts me when a tree root is about to damage a base, was yelling at me. I slipped the access card in my pocket and completed the wash. I didn't utter a sound. That night after she was asleep, I headed to my workspace. I accessed our joint credit card summary online. I handle the payment, but we both have a card for common costs. I scrolled to the entries from last Friday. There it was. A fee for $345. The merchant, the Indigo Room. It wasn't a fee for a couple of beverages. It was a fee for a suite. The last bit of the mystery snapped into place with a dreadful electronic verification. Amelia had noted that one of her office coworkers, a man named Josh, had been especially helpful to her recently. I performed a fast lookup of his name on social platforms. His account was locked, but his profile image was open. It was a shot of him grinning, lifting a drink glass. The backdrop was fuzzy, but the unique, rich blue illumination and the vintage design on the wall behind him were clear. He was at the Indigo Room. The image had been uploaded last Friday evening. There it was. A total unbreakable proof constructed from a scrap of plastic, a credit card entry, and one foolish social media upload. She hadn't been with her female friends. She had been with Josh, in an amorous hotel suite. The fury I experienced was icy and silent. I had been assisting her, catering to her every whim, attempting to reduce her tension while she was out deceiving me. She had exploited my affection, my home, and my funds to enable her infidelity. She had converted my acts of service into a cover for her dishonesty. I didn't rouse her. I didn't challenge her. An issue this ingrained didn't require a chaotic emotional clash. It required a precise, systematic resolution. She desired acts of service. I was about to deliver the grandest, most conclusive act of service of our whole relationship. Part 3. The Assistance. My initial act of service was carried out the very next morning. I took the morning away from work and visited an attorney. I didn't require one for a theatrical legal fight. I just needed details. I needed to comprehend the regulations of the framework I was working within. I described the circumstances to him. I owned my residence completely. My girlfriend had resided with me for more than 2 years, but was not on the title or any loan, and I wanted her gone. The attorney clarified that in our state, since she had stayed with me for so long and set up residency, she was viewed as a tenant at will. I couldn't simply swap the locks and toss her items on the grass. That was an unlawful removal. To expel her, I had to adhere to the proper legal process. I had to supply her with an official, written, 30-day notice to leave the property. 30 days. It felt like forever to coexist under the same roof with someone I now despised. But the rule was the rule, and I was going to obey it precisely. This had to be flawless. This had to be indisputable. My attorney prepared an official notice to quit, a legally enforceable paper that was distant, neutral, and ideal. This was my second act of service. Guaranteeing her expulsion was handled through the proper legal paths, shielding us both from any later complicated conflicts. My third and most notable act of service occurred over the next 2 days. While Amelia was at her job, completely oblivious, I started to box her existence into containers. I went to a relocation supply shop and purchased 50 cartons, a roll of sealing tape, and a pack of bold black pens. I was systematic. I moved from area to area, collecting her items, every article of clothing, every footwear, every novel, every gaudy decor piece she had demanded on purchasing. I boxed it all tidily and cautiously. I cushioned her breakable objects in paper. I marked every single carton with its items. Amelia kitchen items, Amelia winter jackets, Amelia bathroom. It was a huge endeavor, an act of bodily effort that consumed me the better part of 16 hours. I was breaking apart our shared life, one carton at a time. It was the toughest, most healing labor I've ever performed. When she arrived home on Thursday night, I was awaiting her in the sitting room. The house was immaculate. The 50 cartons were piled in a tidy, daunting barrier in the corner of the room. She halted abruptly in the entrance, an expression of total bewilderment on her face. "What is all this?" she inquired. "Are we relocating?" In a sense, I replied, rising. "I have something for you." I gave her a single, sharp, white envelope. She opened it. I observed her scan the official, legal wording of the notice to quit. I saw her eyes move over the paper, her mind gradually absorbing the terms: 30-day notice, leave the property, end of tenancy. "What is this?" she murmured, her face ashen. "An eviction notice? Is this a prank?" "It's not a prank, Amelia," I stated, my tone entirely without feeling. "It's a legal paper. You have 30 days to locate a new residence and take your items from my property." "But why?" she faltered. "I don't comprehend." "You said your love language was acts of service," I clarified. "You said I needed to contribute more for you, so I have. I did your washing, and I discovered the access card to the Indigo Room. I reviewed our credit card summary, and I discovered the fee for the suite. I discovered your colleague Josh's social platforms, and I discovered the evidence that you deceived me. And now, my ultimate act of service is to assist you in starting your fresh life by legally and officially expelling you from mine. I've even boxed for you. All you need to do is choose where you want the cartons to go." I have never in my life witnessed a person's face show so many feelings in such a brief period. Bewilderment, rejection, fear, remorse, and finally a profound, searing anger. She had been delivered. Part 4, the 30 days. The month that ensued was the lengthiest, most awkward 30 days of my existence. It was a silent conflict, battled inside the four walls of my own residence. Week 1, the negotiation stage. Amelia dedicated the first week attempting every controlling strategy in her collection. There were the sobs, the theatrical proclamations of affection, the vows that she would transform. She would leave small messages around the house pleading for my pardon. She attempted to prepare my preferred dishes. It was all an act, a frantic effort to persuade me to withdraw the notice. I declined to interact. Every time she initiated a discussion about us, I would simply indicate the calendar on the wall. You have 23 days remaining, Amelia, I'd state and depart. Week 2, the hostility stage. When the sobs failed, she shifted to fury. She began being intentionally untidy. She would abandon her plates in the basin, her garments on the ground. She would blast loud tunes late into the night. She was attempting to render me so unhappy that I would expel her prematurely, which she could then exploit against me as an unlawful removal. I didn't fall for it. I just serenely tidied her disarrays and recorded everything. I captured images of the condition she left the cooking area in. I logged the sound volumes at night. I was compiling a dossier just in case. The peak of week 2 arrived when she invited Josh to the residence. I returned from work to discover him lounging on my sofa, viewing my television, as if he fit there. It was a dominance move, a flagrant display of disrespect meant to incite me. I entered, glanced at him, then glanced at Amelia. Amelia, I stated, my tone perilously calm. You have 14 days remaining as a legal occupant in this house. This man does not. He is an intruder. You have 10 seconds to remove him from my home before I contact the authorities and have him escorted out. Josh, who was much less imposing without his Jim Bro confidence, rose. Hey, buddy, I'm just here to aid Amelia, he mumbled. Aid her from elsewhere, I stated, gesturing to the exit. They departed. That was the final I ever viewed of him. Week 3, the defamation effort. Having failed to threaten me face-to-face, she brought the battle online. She began phoning our common acquaintances, weaving a pity tale about how I had found a lone, insignificant error, and was now harshly and unlawfully casting her out onto the streets. My phone began buzzing. I managed each call identically. I was composed, I was precise, and I was truthful. Yes, I am removing her, I'd inform them, because I uncovered she was engaged in an affair. I am adhering to the precise legal steps mandated by our state. She claims her love language is acts of service. Well, my ultimate act of service is to provide her 30 days to secure a new home, as the law demands. It's the most assistance I have remaining to offer. Her effort collapsed. Her narrative was riddled with inconsistencies, and my account was a direct path of icy, solid truths. My acquaintances supported me. Week 4, the desperation. With merely a week left, the truth of her predicament finally sank in. She hadn't boxed. She hadn't searched for a flat. I believe until the very conclusion she thought I would yield. The final 7 days were a chaotic rush of her placing anxious calls, attempting to locate a place to stay, attempting to find companions who would assist her relocate. The self-assured, demanding woman was vanished, substituted by a frightened, frantic individual who was at last confronting the outcomes of her own choices. Part 5, the departure. On the ultimate day, the 30th day, I had 2 of my largest workers from my lawn care firm and a reliable buddy at the house with me. They were there as observers, and to guarantee the relocation proceeded without problems and without events. Amelia had to lease a truck. She and her dad, who appeared profoundly embarrassed, passed the morning stacking her 50 cartons of possessions. The mood was heavy with a strained, wretched quietness. When the final carton was in the truck, I stepped outside and passed her an envelope. She eyed it, puzzled. "What's this?" she questioned, her voice rough. "It's another act of service," I replied. "It's a detailed invoice. It's for your portion of the bills for the past month, plus a charge for the expert cleaning crew I've scheduled to arrive tomorrow to repair the disarrays you've been creating. I've also added the receipt for the hotel suite you reserved on our credit card. You can reimburse me whenever you're ready." Her dad just nodded negatively, grabbed the envelope from my grasp, and said, "I'll handle it." She climbed into the truck without another syllable and drove off. I returned into my vacant house, shut the door, and for the first time in 30 days, I experienced the quiet not as a tool, but as a comfort. The following day, I had every lock replaced. Her dad mailed me a payment for the entire sum on the invoice. The house is mine once more. It's spotless. It's peaceful. Amelia wanted me to show my affection through acts of service. In the conclusion, I did. I delivered her the reality. I delivered her the repercussions. And I delivered her a legal notice that provided her the chance to begin a new existence entirely separate from me. It was the most sincere and beneficial act of service I could have possibly executed. It served her justly, and it liberated me.